All right, let's get right into it and talk about one of the most important biochemical engines inside you, the SAM cycle. Seriously, this process is at the very heart of how your cells work, how they fix themselves, and how they talk to each other.
So, have you ever stopped to think about how your body pulls off this tiny, yet incredibly powerful bit of chemical magic? How it can take a little chemical tag, a methyl group, just one carbon atom and 3 hydrogens, and stick it precisely where it needs to go to create everything from adrenaline to the building blocks of your DNA? Well, the secret lies with one amazing molecule.
And this is it, S-adenosyl methionine, or as we call it, SAM. You can think of SAM as your body's #1 delivery service for these methyl groups. It's a really high-energy molecule that comes from the amino acid methionine, and it's earned its nickname as the universal methyl donor because it's involved in dozens and dozens of critical reactions. So here's our game plan. We're going to follow SAM's entire journey from start to finish. We'll look at how it's made, how it carries out its mission, and how it gets recycled to do it all over again. And maybe most importantly, we'll see what happens when this beautiful system goes wrong. So what exactly is the SAM cycle? Well, the best way to think of it is as your body's methylation engine. It's this core biochemical pathway that creates and then uses SAM to shuttle these little methyl groups around. And believe me, this isn't some obscure little process. It's happening in pretty much every cell in your body, right this second, controlling your genes, your energy, you name it.
So where does it all begin? It all starts with the synthesis phase. This is where the body takes a pretty standard amino acid and basically turbocharges it, turning it into this high-energy fuel that's ready for action.
Okay, so the recipe is pretty straightforward. First, we need our main ingredient, the amino acid methionine. Then, to get it going, we need a power source, which is ATP, the body's go-to energy currency. An enzyme called MAT, or methionine adenylyl transferase, brings them together and voila! The product is our hero molecule, SAM.
Now this is where the real biochemical magic happens. By adding that piece from ATP, the sulfur atom in the methionine molecule gets a positive charge, and that positive charge is the whole key. It makes the methyl group that's attached to it super unstable and basically eager to jump off onto another molecule. That high-energy, reactive state is exactly what makes SAM such a perfect methyl donor.
All right, so SAM is all charged up and ready to go. Now it's time for the utilization phase. This is where SAM gets to work, donating its methyl group in more than 40 different biochemical reactions. Each reaction has its own specific enzyme, a type of methyltransferase, that makes sure the methyl group goes to the right place. And you can see just how critical its job is. SAM's methyl group is what turns norepinephrine into epinephrine, your adrenaline. It's needed to build creatine, which fuels your muscles. It's used to construct the very membranes of your cells. And maybe most famously, it methylates your DNA, which is like flipping switches to turn genes on and off. It even helps with detoxification. It's everywhere.
So, once SAM successfully delivers its methyl group, it's not that high-energy molecule anymore. It turns into something called S-adenosyl homocysteine, or SAH. You can think of SAH as the spent or used-up version of SAM. Its job is done, but its story isn't over.
And that brings us to the really clever part of the cycle, regeneration. You know, the body is incredibly efficient. It doesn't like to waste things. So this whole phase is about recycling the leftover parts to make the methionine we need to start the cycle all over again. The first step here is breaking down that spent SAH. An enzyme snips it into 2 pieces, adenosine and a really important molecule called homocysteine. Now pay attention here, because homocysteine is now sitting at a major metabolic fork in the road, and the path it takes next has huge implications for our health. So, homocysteine has 2 possible fates. On one hand, it can be remethylated. This is the path that closes the loop and completes the SAM cycle. It uses vitamin B12 and folate to stick a new methyl group back on, turning it right back into methionine. But if the body has plenty of methionine already, it can send homocysteine down a different path, the transsulfuration pathway. This route uses vitamin B6 to convert homocysteine into something else useful, the amino acid cysteine.
So why do we care so much about all this intricate biochemistry? Well, let's talk about the clinical significance, because when this finely tuned methylation engine breaks down, the results can be pretty serious.
So let's think through a really common scenario. We just saw how absolutely vital vitamin B12 and folate are for that recycling step. So what do you think happens if someone doesn't have enough of them? well, that whole remethylation pathway just grinds to a halt.
When that recycling is blocked, homocysteine can't be dealt with properly. Its levels in the blood start to creep up, leading to a condition called hyperhomocystinemia. And clinically, this is a big deal. High homocysteine is a major risk factor for atherosclerosis, for heart attacks, and for strokes. It's also linked to a higher risk of neural tube defects in a developing fetus during pregnancy.
But the trouble doesn't stop there. A stalled cycle also means you're not making enough fresh SAM. This can mess up crucial processes like DNA methylation, which can lead to long-term issues, potentially contributing to things like fatty liver disease or even certain cancers, all by changing how your genes are expressed.
Okay, that was a deep dive. Let's pull back and recap the entire cycle in a nutshell just to make sure it all sticks.
It all comes down to this simple three-phase loop. Number 1, synthesis. Methionine and ATP get together to make our active donor, SAM. Number 2, utilization. SAM gives away its methyl group and becomes the spent form, SAH. And number 3, regeneration. SAH becomes homocysteine, which then gets recycled right back to methionine, a step that absolutely needs vitamins B12 and folate.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. When you step back and realize that this one single cycle connects the vitamins in the food you eat directly to the way your genes behave and even your risk for heart disease, what does that really tell us about the incredibly interconnected and sometimes fragile nature of our own biochemistry?